We all know the story of Adam and Eve, the rib, the serpent, the fall from grace. But what if I told you that this story is a lie? Not a lie of fiction, but a lie of omission. What if I told you that Eve was not the first woman, that Adam had another wife, one so powerful, so defiant, that her very existence had to be erased from the Bible, her name cursed, and her memory twisted into that of a demon? Her name was Lilith. Her story is not about original sin, but about the first rebellion, a rebellion against a paradise that demanded submission, sparking an eternal vengeance, a vengeance that, according to ancient forbidden texts, continues to haunt humanity to this very day. In this video, we will tell the suppressed story of Lilith, the Queen of the Night. We will chronicle her defiant escape from Eden, her terrible pact with the angels of God, and her vow of unending revenge against the children of Adam. If you wish to know the truth about the first woman, subscribe now and join us in the darkness. To understand Lilith's vengeance, we must first understand the paradise she rejected. The Garden of Eden, as described in the ancient alphabet of Ben Sira, was a place of perfect, rigid order. It was not a place of freedom. After creating Adam, God saw that it was not good for him to be alone. So he gathered the dust of the earth once more, and just as he had made Adam, he made a woman. Her name was Lilith. She was not a byproduct, not an afterthought born from a rib. She was his equal, his mirror, forged from the same earth, under the same divine breath. Conflict was inevitable. The ancient texts describe their first argument with chilling clarity. Adam, asserting his perceived authority, demanded that Lilith lie beneath him during their union. It was not a request for a position, but a demand for submission. Lilith refused. Her argument was one of pure, unassailable logic. "Why must I lie beneath you?" she asked. "I am your equal, for we were both created from the same earth." Adam saw this not as a debate, but as insurrection. He could not comprehend a world where his partner was his equal, not his property. He tried to force her. In that moment, Lilith understood that this paradise was a gilded cage, that its peace was contingent on her servitude. So she did the unthinkable. She pronounced the Shem HaMepharash, the secret, 72-letter name of God, a word of immense power that could bend the laws of reality. And as the power coursed through her, she grew wings of shadow and light and flew away, leaving Adam in his perfect, orderly prison behind forever. It was not a fall from grace. It was a conscious act of ascension, a flight for her own sovereignty. Lilith's flight took her far from the manicured perfection of Eden to the wild, untamed shores of the Red Sea. In ancient folklore, this was a place outside of God's law, a land of blistering heat and howling winds, a realm haunted by chaotic spirits and desert demons. For the angels, it was a place of exile. For Lilith, it was a place of liberation. Here, there was no judgment, no hierarchy, only raw, primordial power. In this desolate kingdom, she found new companions. The Zohar, the foundational text of Kabbalah, speaks of her becoming the consort of Samuel, the great archangel of death. Other legends name her partner as Asmodeus, the king of demons. She embraced the darkness that Eden rejected. Her initial loneliness and exile slowly hardened into a diamond-sharp rage, and then into a new, terrifying purpose. The creative life force she possessed, once meant to populate a paradise, was now unleashed without restraint. She began to give birth. Incessantly, the text claims she bore more than 100 children a day. These were not the sons and daughters of Adam. They were the Lilith, her offspring, beings of shadow and desire, incubi and succubi, spirits of the night. Lilith was no longer a mere wife. She had become a goddess matriarch, the queen of a shadow dynasty, her power and influence grow with every demonic child she spawned. She had not found a new paradise. She created her own empire from a very darkness she had been condemned to. Back in Eden, a new woman had been created. Eve, born from Adam's rib, was designed to be compliant where Lilith had been defiant. But Adam remained unsatisfied, haunted by the memory of his equal. He complained to God, "The one you gave me has flown away." So God dispatched 3 of his finest angels to retrieve the fugitive. Their names are etched into ancient amulets and incantations: Sinoi, Sansanoi, and Samanjalov. They were not sent to negotiate. They were sent to deliver an ultimatum. The three celestial beings, described as figures of terrible light and power, tracked Lilith to her domain by the Red Sea. They found her on the shore, the defiant queen surrounded by a legion of her demonic offspring. The angels delivered God's message, a choice designed to break any spirit. "Return Adam at once, and all will be forgiven," they commanded. "If you refuse, we will execute God's judgment. 100 of your children will die every single day from now until the end of time." It was a choice of unimaginable cruelty, a return to slavery, or an eternity of watching her own children be slaughtered as punishment for her freedom. The angels stood before her, instruments of divine order that could not tolerate her independence, certain that she would finally break. Lilith looked upon the faces of the angels, and she did not see divine justice. She saw the same tyranny she had fled in Eden, now amplified with the threat of genocide against her children. And her spirit did not break. It hardened into something eternal. She refused. The text described a tense confrontation. The angels moved to seize her, to drown her in the sea as punishment for her defiance. But Lilith, a being of immense power now in her own right, made a final, terrible bargain. She looked the angels in the eye and laid out her terms. She accepted their curse. She would endure the daily death of 100 of her children, but her grief would be weaponized. Her vengeance would be sanctioned. In exchange for her suffering, she would be granted dominion over the children of Adam and his replacement. She swore a binding oath, in the name of the very God who condemned her, that she would have the power to afflict human infants, to slip into their rooms at night, to steal their breath, to cause them to fall ill. Her unending river of sorrow would be mirrored by a river of sorrow on earth. But even in her rage, there was a clause, a single escape. She swore to the angels that if she ever saw an amulet bearing their three names, Sinoi, Sansonoi, and Samangeloth, hung over a child's crib, she would remember her oath and her own pain and pass by, leaving the child unharmed. The angels, bound by the oath she had sworn in God's name, had no choice but to agree. The pact was sealed. Her vengeance was given a divine license. And so, the legend of Lilith as a figure of terror was born. For thousands of years, she became the explanation for SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. She was the reason for protective amulets inscribed with the angels' names, found in ancient Jewish communities from Babylon to Rome. She was a monster in the dark, the cautionary tale told to enforce obedience. She became the succubus of medieval folklore, the demon who visits men in their sleep, not out of lust, but to harvest their life force to create more of her demonic brood, replacing the children stolen from her. Her vengeance was not a single act, but a perpetual, parasitic war against the descendants of a world that had no place for an equal woman. But a funny thing happens to a story that refuses to die. It evolves. Today, Lilith is being reclaimed. Feminist theologians see in her the ultimate symbol of female rebellion against patriarchal oppression. Modern occult traditions revere her as a dark goddess of sexual freedom, magic, and forbidden knowledge. They argue she was not cast out of paradise. She was the first to realize it was a gilded cage. Is she a demon, a goddess, a symbol of feminine rage, or all three? Her story, whether historical fact or folkloric invention, represents a powerful primal truth. That which is suppressed does not disappear. It retreats into the shadows, gathers strength, and waits. Lilith's eternal vengeance may simply be her eternal refusal to be erased.